I was looking at the monthly cloud bill for one of our side projects the other day, and I had this distinct moment of, I guess you'd call it token fatigue.
Token fatigue. Yeah, I like that. It sounds like a medical condition.
It honestly feels like one. It's this pervasive low-level anxiety that every time you want to be smart, every time you want to use these agentic tools everyone is hyping up, you have to pay a toll.
Right.
You essentially have to mortgage your future to a cloud provider in Virginia or Oregon.
Or you build a data center in your basement that requires its own hydroelectric dam to keep cool.
Exactly. We have this binary view of AI right now. Either you're paying a massive subscription for a magic API in the sky, or you're completely helpless. But the research we're diving into today really flips that script.
It does. It completely challenges the idea that state-of-the-art necessarily means the biggest possible model running on the biggest possible server.
Yeah, so today's deep dive is based on a really specific breakdown we have. It's titled Optimal Local LLM Hardware and RGA Deployment Tiers. And the mission here is to unpack how local models running directly on your own infrastructure offer this incredibly efficient, cost-effective, and totally private path to AI adoption.
Right. Instead of looking at how much compute we can rent, this analysis asks, what happens when you bring the intelligence down to the device that is literally sitting in front of you right now?
And not just for tinkering, but for actual enterprise workflows.
Exactly. We are going to unpack this hardware hierarchy from entry to ultra tiers. We'll look at the specific recommended models that fit those tiers, like Phi-4 and Llama 4, and their specific Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG, roles.
And we're going to argue that jumping onto the AI and agentic bandwagon doesn't require an unlimited IT budget. We aren't talking about hypothetical hardware coming out in 5 years. We're talking about the laptop in your backpack right now.
The desktop in the HR department.
Yeah, the stuff you already own. So let's get into the weeds here. The source starts somewhere that, honestly, I would have assumed is a total non-starter for AI, the entry level.
Right, and usually when we say entry level in the context of large language models, we're politely saying useless, or at best, painfully slow.
But here, the definition of entry level is hardware with 8 gigabytes to 16 gigabytes of RAM.
Which is standard.
It's the corporate Dell laptop issued to every junior analyst, right?
Okay.
It's the MacBook Air from 3 years ago.
Precisely. If you walk into any coffee shop or look around most open plan offices, 80% of the machines fit this description. And the prevailing wisdom has always been that these machines are just terminals.
Just dumb screens to access the real brain in the cloud.
Yes, but this analysis challenges that head-on. It recommends a specific model for this tier, the Phi-4 Mini.
Okay, so Phi-4 Mini. It's a 3.8 billion parameter model. Now, I have to be the skeptic here for a second, because 3.8 billion, we are so used to hearing about models with hundreds of billions of parameters. GPT-4, Claude, they are massive. Isn't 3.8 billion basically a toy?
A year ago? Maybe. You really would have struggled to get coherent sentences out of something that small. But the efficiency gains we've seen recently, specifically in how these smaller models are trained on high-quality synthetic data, are staggering.
So they punch above their weight.
They absolutely do. And the key metric the source highlights for Phi-4 Mini is RAM usage. It only requires 3 to 5 gigabytes of RAM to run.
Let's do the math on that, because 8 gigabytes is not a lot of room. If I have an 8 gigabyte laptop, Windows or Mac OS takes, what, 3 or 4 gigabytes just to exist?
If you're lucky and you haven't opened Chrome yet.
Right, so if the OS takes 4 gigs and the model takes 4 gigs, that is incredibly tight.
It is tight. On an 8 gigabyte machine, you aren't running Photoshop and Premiere Pro alongside this. It's a squeeze, but it works. And if you have 16 gigabytes, which is increasingly the standard for new laptops, you don't even notice it. It just sits in the background, consuming a fraction of your resources.
So what can a mini model actually do in a business setting? The source defines its role specifically as fast chat and search.
This is where we need to recalibrate our definition of an agent. We aren't asking the Phi-4 Mini to write a novel or debug a complex kernel panic. We are using it for velocity.
Velocity, meaning speed.
Think of it as a semantic indexer, a super smart receptionist for your own data. Because it resides locally, right on the silicon, there is zero network latency. You aren't shaking hands with the server, authenticating, sending tokens, waiting for generation, and then receiving packets back.
You hit enter, and the text is just there.
Exactly.
That's interesting. So for an agentic workflow, say an automated loop that just needs to check, is this email angry or happy, or find the order number in this text, you don't need a genius.
You need a clerk. And you need a fast clerk. That's Phi-4 Mini. It's perfect for those high-frequency, low-complexity tasks where waiting 500 milliseconds for an API call actually breaks the user experience.
And there's also the privacy angle here, which I think is the killer app for the entry tier.
Oh, it's huge. If you are using a cloud model for everything, every time you hit Command F to find a client's name or check a proprietary part number, you are theoretically exposing that data.
Even if the provider swears they don't train on it, it's still traversing the open internet. It's leaving your firewall.
Which gives the IT security managers, the CISOs, absolute nightmares.
Rightfully so.
But with the Phi-4 Mini running locally on that modest 8 GB laptop, the data never leaves the chipset. It's a closed loop. It proves you don't need a GPU cluster to have a secure, intelligent assistant for basic retrieval.
It's almost like having a really smart flashlight. It doesn't light up the whole city, but it lights up exactly what you're looking for instantly.
That's the perfect analogy. And honestly, for 60% of the daily tasks we do, like rewriting a sentence, finding a file, summarizing a quick email, the flashlight is all you need. You don't need a spotlight from a police helicopter.
Okay, so that's the baseline. The 8 GB crowd is officially in the game. But let's say we want to do actual heavy lifting. We want to generate content, maybe handle some real business logic. That brings us to the mid-tier,
Now we're in the sweet spot. The source defines this as hardware with 16 gigabytes to 24 gigabytes of RAM.
which is your high-end business laptop, a decent Mac Mini, maybe a creative's workstation.
Exactly. This is the hardware for your standard knowledge workers. And the recommendation here is the Llama 4 Scout. It's an 8 billion parameter model.
8B.
Yeah.
That really seems to be a magic number in the local LLM community right now. Why is that specific size so popular?
It's the Goldilocks zone. It's big enough to have read a significant portion of the internet and understand nuance. It gets jokes, it understands sarcasm, it can follow multi-step instructions, but it's small enough to fit on consumer-grade graphics cards and standard memory configurations.
The source notes it consumes about 6 to 9 gigabytes of RAM.
Right. So on that 16 gigabyte machine, you're dedicating maybe half your memory to the AI brain. That leaves you plenty of system overhead for Excel, Slack, 20 Chrome tabs. You aren't crippling the machine to make it smart.
The role defined here is general purpose RAG. We throw that acronym around a lot, Retrieval-Augmented Generation. But in a local context, does that actually mean something different than the cloud?
Mechanically, it's similar. You're asking the AI to look at your specific documents, your PDFs, spreadsheets, internal wikis, and answer questions based on them. But the experience is completely different locally.
How so?
It's about intimacy with the data. A cloud RA system usually involves uploading files to a vector database sitting on a server somewhere. A local RA system, powered by something like Llama 4 Scout, is reading the actual file system of your computer.
So it's the difference between search the company archives and read the draft I'm working on right now.
Precisely. If Phi-4 Mini is just finding the file name, Llama 4 Scout is actually reading it, understanding it, and synthesizing it. It's the difference between find the Q3 report and summarize the risks listed in the Q3 report and draft an email to the team highlighting them.
That is a significant jump in capability.
It is. This is the workhorse. The Llama 4 Scout is the Toyota Camry of local AI. It's not the fastest thing on earth. It's not the smartest thing ever created, but it is incredibly reliable. It fits in your garage, and it gets you to work every single day.
And again, doing all of this without a subscription fee.
Zero. If you equip your marketing coordinators, your HR reps, your project managers with this mid-tier setup, you have effectively given everyone a private research assistant. The productivity gains are massive, and the ongoing operational expenditure is effectively zero because you already own the RAM.
I think that's the part that really gets lost in the hype. We treat AI like a service, like electricity or water you pay for by the drop. But this model treats AI like a software license you bought once. Or better yet, like a core capability of the hardware itself.
You don't pay a subscription to use your CPU to do math. You shouldn't have to pay a subscription to use your local AI to do thinking.
Yes. But sometimes the Camry isn't enough. Sometimes you need to haul lumber. Or you need to race. So let's talk about the Pro tier.
Now we are stepping up. The source classifies Pro as 32 gigabytes to 48 gigabytes of RAM.
Okay, so now we're talking about a serious machine. A dedicated developer workstation, a high-end gaming rig, or maybe a Mac Studio. This is the standard issue for the sales team anymore.
No, it's not. This is for a specific class of user, and the model recommendation changes drastically here. We're looking at Qwen 3, specifically in the 14 billion to 32 billion parameter range.
And the RAM usage jumps to match. We're looking at 12 to 24 gigabytes just to keep the model awake.
which would instantly crash our entry-level laptop. It wouldn't even load.
The role here is defined as coding and deep analysis. Now, I have to ask, why can't the Llama 4 Scout write code? It knows Python, doesn't it? I've seen 8B models write scripts.
It knows the syntax of Python, sure. But writing code, good, functional, production-ready software, isn't just about vocabulary, it's about logic and context.
Context, that's the key word.
It really is. If you're a developer, you aren't just writing one isolated function. You need the agent to understand how that function interacts with the database schema you built yesterday, the API documentation, and the front-end framework. That requires a massive context window.
It needs to hold all those puzzle pieces in its head at the exact same time.
Exactly. And smaller models, they drift, they hallucinate. They forget that you defined a variable 3 files ago. The Qwen3 models, specifically in that 14B to 32B size, have the brain mass, so to speak, to maintain that complex logic structure over a long prompt.
So it's not just about knowing the answer, it's about reasoning through the problem without dropping the ball halfway through.
Coding is unforgiving. If you get a fact wrong in a marketing email, it's a typo. If you get a semicolon wrong in C++A's, the application doesn't compile. You need a model with higher precision.
This connects back to the agentic theme perfectly. At the entry level, we had a fetch agent. At mid, a summarization agent. Here at Pro, we are talking about agents that actually do the work.
These are agents that can take a command like, here is a bug report from a user, go read the log, find the error in the code base, write a test case to reproduce it, and suggest a fix.
That is a multi-step reasoning process.
And doing that locally is a game changer for intellectual property.
Oh, absolutely. I know companies that have strict bans on pasting code into Claude or ChatGPT because they're terrified of leaking their IP.
And they should be. But if you're running Qwen3 on a local 32-gigabyte machine, your code never leaves the building. Your developers get the productivity boost of an AI pair programmer, but the legal team can actually sleep at night.
So for the devs, the data scientists, the financial modelers, the pro tier is really the minimum barrier to entry.
I'd say so. Giving a developer an entry-level model is just going to frustrate them. You have to match the tool to the trade.
But we have one more level, the ultra or max tier.
The heavy lifters.
The source defines this as 64 gigabytes of RAM or more.
This is rare air. This is a dedicated workstation or maybe a dual GPU setup. This is a serious hardware investment.
And the model recommended is the DeepSeek R1, a 32 billion plus parameter model. The RAM usage here is 25 to 40 gigabytes. The model alone is bigger than the entire hard drive of computers from a few years ago.
It's massive, but the capability is distinct. The source lists the role as complex research.
How is complex research different from the deep analysis we just talked about?
DeepSeek R1 is what we call a reasoning model. It's designed to think before it speaks. It uses a chain of thought process.
Break that down for us. Chain of thought.
When you ask a standard model a question, it predicts the next word immediately. It streams the answer right away. When you ask a reasoning model like R1 a question, it might pause. It internally debates. It says, is this true? What if I look at it from this angle? No, that contradicts this other fact.
It's basically having an internal monologue.
Exactly. And that takes memory. Massive amounts of memory for the key value cache. This tier is for when you need to connect disparate dots. You aren't just fixing a block of code. You're saying, here are 20 different research papers, the last 10 years of market data, and our internal strategy deck. Synthesize a new product roadmap.
This is the strategic tier.
It is. It's for the R&D department. It's for the strategic planners. It's for tasks where there isn't a single right answer, and you need the AI to construct a completely novel argument.
And again, the argument for local deployment here is why? If I need that much power, isn't the cloud just better and easier?
Cost is a huge factor. Those long reasoning chains burn a staggering amount of tokens. But primarily, it's about the crown jewels.
The most sensitive data a company owns.
Right. If you are a pharmaceutical company analyzing potential drug compounds or a hedge fund modeling a merger, that data is highly radioactive. You do not want it on a shared server anywhere. You want DeepSeek R1 running in a locked room on a machine that might not even be connected to the internet.
It's the ultimate sovereignty. You pay a premium for the hardware upfront because RAM isn't cheap, but you buy yourself total, absolute control.
And in a world where data is the new oil, having your refinery inside your own walls is a massive competitive advantage.
So we've built this hierarchy: entry, mid, pro, ultra, and I think the temptation for a leader listening to this is to say, well, I want the best for my team. Let's just buy everyone the Ultra tier.
Please don't do that. Your CFO will fire you.
It's completely overkill, right?
It's a financial disaster, and it's unnecessary. The real power of this source material is that it outlines a mixed fleet strategy.
A mixed fleet. I like that.
Yeah.
So let's role play the org chart for a second. I'm the CEO. I walk into the lobby. The front desk staff, what are they running?
They get the entry tier, a standard laptop running Phi-4 Mini. They need to look up visitor logs, check FAQs, draft a quick out-of-office reply. It's fast, it's cheap, it works flawlessly for that.
Then I go to the bullpen. Marketing, sales, HR.
Mid-tier, Llama 4 Scout. They need to digest documents, manage communications, draft content. The 16 to 24 gigabyte range covers them perfectly. It's the ideal balance of cost and capability.
Then I head over to where the developers live.
Pro tier, Quinn 3. Do not skimp here. If you give them the mid-tier, they will complain, and productivity will drop. They need that context window. You invest in the 32 gigabyte plus hardware because their time is the most expensive resource you have.
And finally, the locked room in the back. The strategy and R&D team.
That's where you put your few ultra-tier machines. You might only need 5 of them in the entire company. But those 5 machines running DeepSeek R1 are doing the heavy lifting that drives the future of the business.
It's such a logical way to look at it. Instead of AI being this monolithic thing where you just say, we need AI, it's a spectrum of tools meticulously matched to specific jobs.
And here is the real takeaway for the business case. By adhering to these local tiers, you are building a permanent firewall against 2 things: skyrocketing API costs and data leakage.
The cost argument is really sticking with me today. We are so conditioned to the SaaS model right now. Per user, per month, forever.
And those costs scale linearly. You hire more people, you pay more. You use the model more heavily, you pay more. With local hardware, the marginal cost of asking the AI a question is 0.
Whether I ask Llama 4 Scout to summarize 1 document or 1,000 documents.
It costs you the exact same amount of electricity. That predictability is something businesses absolutely crave but rarely get with cloud AI.
It really changes the calculus. I think a lot of organizations are sitting on the sidelines because they think the ticket price for agentic AI is a 6-figure consulting contract and a massive, endless cloud budget.
They think they need to hire a prompt engineer and a dedicated cloud architect just to get started.
But this deep dive proves that the ticket price might just be upgrading the RAM and the laptops you already own.
Or realizing that the 8 gigabyte laptop sitting on the desk is already capable of running a Phi-4 Mini agent today. You don't need to buy anything, you just need to download the model and get to work.
That's the empowering part of all this. The barrier to entry isn't $1 million. It's 8 gigabytes.
And remember, the software, the models themselves are getting smaller and more efficient every single month. The entry tier of today might be capable of mid-tier work next year. But the hardware hierarchy gives us a stable framework to plan around right now.
It puts the control back in the hands of the user. You own the hardware, you run the model locally, you keep the data private.
No big brother in the cloud reading your prompts. Just you and your silicon.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought that really hit me while we were prepping this deep dive.
What's that?
We spend so much time in this industry debating cloud budgets. We have endless meetings about optimizing API spend and tracking tokens. But if an 8 gigabyte laptop, a machine we basically consider entry-level right now, can run a highly capable fast chat agent like Phi-4 Mini, how much of your current cloud budget is basically just burning money?
That is the million-dollar question. If you can move 40 or 50% of your AI queries, the simple repetitive ones, to local devices, what does that do to your bottom line?
And what does it do to your speed and security? It's a strategy worth testing. Local AI isn't a hobbyist fringe movement anymore. It's a core competitive advantage.
Efficient, cost-effective, and completely private. It is very hard to argue with that trifecta.
Thanks for diving in with us today. Check your specs, look at your RAM, and maybe see what your own machine is actually capable of. You might be very surprised.
Happy experimenting.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.